Tonight, just in time for the holidays, we break from reality as we descend into the upside down and out of the realm of pure possibility. Welcome back to another matchup from Who Would Win Masters. I am Sam Proof on all the socials, and in this episode, representing Marvel Comics, the Avenger who treats reality like a suggestion and trauma like a power source, the woman who can rewrite the universe but still can't get her happy ending, it's the Scarlet Witch. And representing Netflix's Stranger Things, the Lich God who makes Matt Mercer say mercy, the sorcerer who turned the tables on tabletop, it's the Dark Wizard Vekna. Luke, that was for you, and I hope I did you well. All right. Our guest tonight is the true gift of Christmas present. He is a video game creator who has worked on titles you know and love like Madden, Tetris, South Park Stick of the Truth, and his wife has proclaimed him the old nerd. It is William Schmidt. William, how you doing? Welcome to the show.
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you.
Awesome. Now, you're a longtime RPG player. What's the longest campaign you've played, and what was the system?
The campaign that I run most often, I started at the age of 18. So it's been about, if I could do math, still
700 years. Okay. Wow. That is awesome. And now you're representing Vekna from Stranger Things. What made you pick this character?
First of all, in D&D, Vecna is a legend, and it's great to see Stranger Things really delve into that lore and associate Vecna and get a lot more people interested in it. So I naturally gravitated towards Stranger Things. I love the whole concept of the Mind Flayer and Vecna and the Demigorgon, and it felt great. So I look forward to representing against a very tough opponent.
Nice. Do you think they represented Vecna well in the show from the source material?
I think that if you initially you're gonna look at it, you're gonna like, no, that's not Vecna. Vecna's
Right.
an undead person with like flesh falling off and everything. This is more like a plant person made of roots and whatnot. But when you look at the little details that they drop on Vecna, like his hand, right? In D&D, his hand is cut off and his eye is gouged out, and they're both like artifacts over this long period of time. People quest for them, and it's just this huge thing in Dungeons and Dragons. And in Stranger Things, they've kind of like given a homage to that, right? And that the hand like kind of extends and grows and becomes this killing implement for him.
Awesome. All right, let's get into tonight's Tale of the Tape. The Tale of the Tape is brought to you by the Fruit-Flavored Candy Cane Council. Everyone loves those mint-flavored candy canes, but what if you want a special treat just for yourself? That's why we fully endorse those gross artificial fruit-flavored candy canes that don't taste good at all and that leaves more for you. Should I do that again, Ray? No? Works? All right, we'll gobble it. Today's matchup is a December special straight from pop culture heaven as Marvel's magical goddess, the Scarlet Witch, faces off with the terror of Stranger Things, Vekna. First off, we have the Scarlet Witch, otherwise known as Wanda Maximoff. Scarlet Witch has been a staple of Marvel Comics for a long time, acting as both hero and villain depending on the story. Her use of hex magic makes her a powerful mutant. Or is she not a mutant anymore? Who's to say, really? Probably people on this show. In any case, Wanda is always a force to be respected. She was created by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby and first appeared in the X-Men #4 back in 1964. Her opponent tonight is Vekna, the Dungeons & Dragons character given new life in the world of Stranger Things. Henry Creel was exposed to elements of the Upside Down, and he was a troubled child, eventually winding up at the Hawkins lab. The efforts to turn him into a military weapon failed, though, and his rampage set forth the events of Stranger Things Season 4 and 5. All right, that's the basics to get us started. William, time to introduce your opponent. It says here that all he wants for Christmas is total domination in the sphere of who would win style battles for eternity. Failing that, a G.I. Joe USS Flag aircraft carrier playset. Well, Ray, we'll work on the domination thing, I guess, because that's too expensive. It's very expensive. It was expensive back in the 80s. So, how you doing, Ray? Welcome back.
I was doing good till I was reminded
I'm
that I'm not
sorry.
getting a G.I. Joe USS
No.
Flag aircraft carrier for Christmas
Right.
again this year for the 5th year in a row.
If you send me 10 cereal box tops, however, I will generate an AI NFT of it. So there is that.
Well, there's that at least to look forward to under my tree on December 25th. I'm doing fine, Sam. I really, for the people not watching the video, Sam is wearing a very festive holiday sweater where myself and William are apparently the Grinches, the Scrooges
Yeah.
of the season.
How dare.
Absolutely. William's wearing a D&D themed role-playing shirt, and I'm wearing a sushi shirt because that's what the season means to me. Eating fish,
Delicious.
apparently. Listen, I didn't prepare for this as well as I could have. I was too busy preparing my points for this battle. I am excited about Vekna being on the show. It is Stranger Things month. If we weren't going to do Vekna right now, whenever again were we going to do Vekna?
I mean, this
and
was
Scarlet
our last
Witch,
chance, really.
That's it, right? And Scarlet Witch is a great magical matchup. We did have some other characters in mind, and it just seemed like this particular one was going to bring the heat. And I look forward to ending the year on a high note.
Yeah, no, I got to say, I love this. I was a big fan of both Stranger Things and WandaVision. I think those are both amazing properties, and the characters are awesome. And with that being said, let's get to our rules in under 1 minute. Here are your rules for Who Would Win Masters in 1 minute. Number 1, there will be 3 timed rounds with counterpoints allowed. Number 2, characters will have no prior knowledge of their opponent and no outside interference will be allowed. Number 3, keep the characters in character. Outliers and crossovers will be given less weight. Number 4, battles can be won by death, knockout, battlefield removal, or incapacitation. And number 5, after the battle, I will give my unofficial opinion as to who wins and why. However, I am just one voice. It will be up to all of you on our social media and our Patreon to make your voices heard as to who won. It's time to go into our first point. William, you as our guest will start us off. You have 3 minutes on the clock, starting now.
All right, so let's start with, sorry, wait 1 second. Just noticed, is my microphone okay? Because I think it's picking up through the camera mic, not the mic.
Oh, are you able to switch your microphone? I mean, you did sound like a little off, but I didn't know if you had a fancy mic.
Yeah, when you tapped it, we didn't hear
it change it?
respond. So yeah, give it a shot.
No, you're definitely coming through your camera mic.
Yeah.
All right.
Do you want to try to reboot and choose the new mic? That's probably the only way to do it.
I see the mic on the list. I can't do it while we're recording, it says.
Yeah, so why don't go ahead and reboot, and then when you come back in, it'll just create a new track for you. It'll be fine.
Okay, I'll be right back.
No, good call out.
Definitely. Okay. Cool.
Yeah, when I went to go edit the wrap up, I don't know what Riverside was doing, but it like cut out like whole sections and paragraphs of people talking, like,
oh no.
But leaving like one word in the middle of it. So it was like you reading the entire thing, and it left in the words Matthew Dawson, and then cut everything before and after that in the thing. I had to go back in and like manually put it all back, and I don't know why it did that.
All right, at least the source was still there.
Kind of fast, but...
Okay, Jesus.
Oh, I can. Yeah, I have the pure recording thing, so I mean it's fine.
Good.
All right, let's hear the.
Did you hear the tapping?
It's so much better now.
Yeah, that's way better.
This is a good microphone.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Well, here's the deal. It'll be great. Your points will sound great. So go ahead and just start your points, and I'll just start the timer whenever you get going.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and start with the physicality of Vekna, just to kind of set an idea of how tough he is. Nothing has really hurt him yet in the show. He's shown amazing superhuman durability, and throughout the show, he's getting tougher. In season 4, he could be hurt by a couple things. In this most recent season, he walked out to a full barrage of automatic fire and just kind of walked right through it. You know, little chips fell off and he just grew them right back instantly. It doesn't seem like much hurts him. right? He's been set ablaze. He's been hit with shotgun at close range, and that's when he was much, much weaker. And now he's way stronger, and nothing really seems to be phasing him. So at this point, I'd put his durability way up there, even in the Marvel universe. When he does get hurt, he regenerates almost instantly. So we have seen like little bits of him fall off, but they just grow back amazingly fast. So I'm going to put his regeneration way up there. Maybe not on the same level as a Deadpool or Wolverine, but definitely way up there. So he also has amazing offensive capabilities. He has very, very powerful telekinesis. We haven't seen anybody being able to resist it yet. And it's used not just as a physical form, but it can be used on energy. In a more recent episode, someone came at him with a flamethrower and he turned the flames back on the person using his telekinesis. So it's beyond just physical telekinesis. And he just has great battlefield control. He walked onto a battlefield and just locked people down. And it takes him no time to do it. So he's incredibly tough. He's incredibly strong. And that just makes him a great physical presence. So if anything comes at him, he's going to be able to deflect it with telekinesis. As they get through and hits him, even tears a piece of him away, he'll grow back. So he's pretty well set to fight just about anybody, right? Especially someone like Wanda who likes to throw stuff. I want to combine this with another point, which is he thrives against victims who have psychic scarring, right? People who have had trauma in their lives. We've seen this throughout the show. He picks on people who have been bullied, who've had really traumatic car wrecks and things like that. We can't really think of too many other people in the Marvel Universe that have had a worse time than Wanda Maximoff, right? Seeing her brother die right before her, seeing her husband disassembled in front of her.
Here are your rules for who would win.
Just vanish before her, right?
30 seconds remaining.
So she's been through a lot of traumatic experiences, and we know that Vekna really thrives on attacking people with those experiences. He seeks them out. So she's kind of like prime rib for him, right? He's going to see her, he's going to see all those mental scars, and he's going to be able to really use his powers efficiently against her. That's my point number one.
And what a strong starting point that is. Ray, 3 minutes on the clock, starting now.
I love that first point. You talk about using your psychic powers to blow a flamethrower back onto the person who did it. That is, I could do that with a leaf blower, but I mean, sure, when Vekna does it, it's super, super cool. It's called wind, and I'm just saying not as impressive, perhaps a point as you would have wanted it to be. And I like the regeneration. I hate the fact that we're doing this battle before the second half of Stranger Things season 5 drops, so I don't actually get to see how they beat him in the end. I'm just going to say I know that they beat him in the end. If he wins Stranger Things, more power to the show creators. I'm going to spend most of my point number one talking about her hex powers, though. Her hex power is essentially where she creates a bubble, and inside that bubble, wacky stuff can happen, right? She changes probabilities of things. Like a gun could misfire, right? Chances are good it almost will never misfire. But under the probability hex power, it almost always will misfire if that's what she kind of wants it to do. She's developed better control over it also as her character has grown. She kind of has a personal final destination ability about herself. In that, if you've seen those movies, weird things happen, then this happens, and then the paint can flies across, opening the door, and the bowling ball falls off, hits the guy in the head. That's Wanda Maximoff, and that's what her powers are sort of about. They don't necessarily make sense, at least the hex power part of it, but it makes total sense if you don't think about it too hard. She can use her abilities to shoot hex bolts. They're damaging sort of projectile beam attacks, basically. But more so, she can cause structures around her to just collapse as they just become loose and then tumble to the ground. She has a Jason Voorhees-esque ability to cause machinery to fail whenever she wants to. So the lights will go out, or the motor will stop running, or the gun will misfire, for example. But she can also do the same thing with brain chemistry. She did that to Beast of the X-Men, who's normally very agile, and she just made him fall over because she messed with his, vertigo or whatever. Well, what could do that? Vecna's tendrils perhaps they could be controlled in some way, made to not quite work as well with the certain brain chemistry, and suddenly they're not working. Look, she can mess with someone's nervous system and cause them to be knocked unconscious. Her bubbles, her hex power, are powerful enough that they could trap Mjolnir when it was flying through the air and it stopped. You just can't do that under any normal non-magical circumstances. So what stops her from throwing Vekna in one of these bubbles and bringing him down? Shoot, she stopped a rocket ship from taking off by wrapping it in a missile. And she could also use this hex power as a force field if she really has to. But I think immediately in point number 1, she's going to be able to contain Vekna and take him down.
All right, William, you have 1 minute for your counterpoint, 60 seconds on the clock, starting now.
All right. So Beast is a very smart mutant, but he's got no mental powers and no mental defense. Vekna has mental powers and mental defense. So Wanda has not had a lot of success against mentalists. People like Xavier and Phoenix can eat her for lunch. I put Vekna in that category of that type of opponent, in that they know what mental power feels like, right? Wanda's also using magic, right? Which means that she needs to form hexes and use semantics and stuff in the air. We see that more in the MCU than in the comics, but certainly in the comics, she's doing the gestures and so forth, right? So it takes her time to cast, and she's not going to have a lot of time against Vekna. Vekna does not cast. He just simply moves at the speed of thought. And I think she's going to have a real problem with that. That's my...
All right, an amazing first round, guys, and one might say an amazing offense coming out of the gates, really strong on both sides. And we'll see how things go when we come back for point number 2. Really quick, this holiday, give the gift that keeps on giving, never-ending arguments about who can beat who. If you don't know, you can gift your friends or your enemies a membership to our Patreon. Just head over to patreon.com/whowodwinmasters/gift and let them know that if you had to think about this, then they have to think about it too. All right, we're back for point number 2. I'm excited to see where this goes. William, 3 minutes on the clock, starting now.
All right, so my point number 2 is actually getting into Vecna's other powers, the stuff that they've kind of touched on in the series. And I want to bring these up because one of them is like incredible. Well, 2 of them are actually incredibly important to this battle. The first one, which is a little less important, but it could come into play, is that Vekna can control flesh. And this sounds weird, but as we saw in earlier series, he took a bunch of townspeople and pulled them all together into one location. And he had a bunch of rats in there and everything. And he basically had them explode. And they formed into this giant beast. And the beast became this flesh elemental, this flesh golem that ended up chasing 11, right? If there are people in the vicinity when this fight breaks out, he can start to employ this and basically create a distraction that can take on Wanda as he performs the stuff. Not that he needs to necessarily, but it's an interesting power. The more relevant powers here are the fact that he can open a rift to the Upside Down, to Dimension X. He could literally open this up within seconds, and using telekinesis can push people through it. That's battlefield removal, right? The other thing he can do, and this is probably the most effective thing that he can do, is he can control the minds of others. He can literally put them into a vegetative state as their physical form just sits there and relieves these nightmares that they've experienced in the past, right? In the show, we see him use this on his father, where his father was in the war and he ordered the bombing of this building and then realized that there was an infant in there. So makes him relive that by seeing the baby in the fireplace on fire, right? Imagine what he can do to Wanda with all the trauma that she's felt, right? So locking her up in her own little mental prison, where in the real world, her body just starts levitating off the ground and is defenseless. It's at this point that he normally walks over and closes that left hand around the head of his victim, and you hear all the snapping and popping start to happen, right? So very hard to defend against that, especially if it's coming at the speed of thought, right? Where Wanda needs to cast a spell, she needs to think about it, He doesn't, right? He just simply looks at her.
Seconds remaining.
And he walks over, grabs a hold of her. You start hearing all the twigs break, right? So it's very, very nasty. I'm not sure how she would defend against that.
All right, well, let's see if Ray has an idea of how Wanda might defend against that or being trapped into the Upside Down. Ray, 3 minutes on the clock for your point number 2, starting now.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you can sit over there and pretend that Wanda Maximoff doesn't have magical defense or mental defenses, but she absolutely does. She's had battles against characters like the Enchantress, where she's been able to shrug off some of those mental attacks that she's had to deal with before. Meanwhile, Vekna, and I call this the Pennywise argument, because it was done to great effect against me when I had Pennywise, which is as powerful as Vekna is. And as great as Vekna is, and all the crazy, amazing, violent things Vekna can do, in the end, he will be defeated by a pack of children. And that's why it's the Pennywise defense. You might have these cosmic level powers, X, Y, and Z, but I know for a fact that small children will be bringing you down with baseball bats at the end of the day. I don't know how yet, but I know that they will. Look, Wanda has trained with Agatha Harkness on chaos magic, which really tends to be elemental in nature. Now, she combines her natural, so she was a mutant, then she wasn't a mutant. Who knows anymore? The thing is, she started with just the hex magic, and you're right, she didn't have to say a lot of words, do gestures, but that was because she was depowered for a while, and she needed to do that in order to get the spells out. Training with Agatha Harkness on chaos magic now has added a second element, if you will, to her mixed bag of powers. So the hex magic is one thing, the elemental magic is another. Well, she can use basically control the four seasons, if you will, not the musical act, not the hotel. She can control air, wind, fire, and waters, which means she can cause earthquakes and destroy physical locations when she needs to. She can warp weapons to entrap the wielders. They had like long blades, and then she just sort of magnetoed them around them so they would be contained by it, right? She once stopped Hawkeye's arrows in midair just by flicking the spell at it. She controlled the wind powerfully enough in order to stop 2 tornadoes from happening. She literally has storms abilities at this point combined with the ridiculous probability magic. And that's where Vekna is going to cause a lot of trouble, because the people that are facing, only really one of them has any actual powers, and the rest of them have to try to figure out like little angles and schemes in order to like move his attention or what have you. Wanda's going to hit him full throat in the nose, and there's not a lot he could do about it. Look, she could use telekinesis by manipulating the wind. She can injure people or cure people with her magic, so she can heal or just cast a pain spell. But most importantly, she can manipulate fire. And what is Vekna's biggest weakness in Stranger Things so far? Fire. He doesn't do well when he is on fire. It is his weakness. Well, Wanda summoned lava before. Wanda can cause things to ignite and explode. And if she can set Vekna on fire, which she can do easily, he will be not as strong and will be taken down, just like with a group of children with baseball bats.
Certainly an explosive point number 2 from Ray. You have 1 minute to counterpoint, 60 seconds on the clock, starting now.
Well, I guess you didn't hear my first point about how he's been set on fire and it just didn't bother him. The kids did throw a Molotov cocktail at him, light him up on fire. He didn't care. He just kept coming straight after him. Didn't show any pain, nothing, right? So light him on fire. That's fine. Here's the problem. You're not going to have the time to do that. You'll be in a mental space. So I don't think that's going to work. Telekinesis against telekinesis, sure, they're going to throw each other around. Maybe. If she can actually cast something. You continue to reference magic. It continues to require semantic components, right? So, yeah, I don't. You haven't said anything that I'm taking as threatening from Wanda. I hope you have something better in your third point. But lighting him on fire is not going to work. Hitting him with telekinesis not going to work. And again, how is she going to do that when she's in her own mindscape?
I've seen him incapacitate children on Stranger Things. They're still able to move their hands and eyes and whatnot. What do you even mean? You're acting like she has to do Tai Chi gymnastics
all right.
in order to get spells off.
There's no time
you, sir.
I strike this from the record. We'll be back after this break with our point number 3. All right, it's getting fiery over here. We're going to jump right into point number 3 with William's final point and 3 minutes on the clock starting now.
All right. So let's see if anybody else has made this connection. Anybody notice who Henry's father was in the show? It was a guy who played Freddy Krueger. And there's actually a very big component to that. When I talk about moving her into her own headspace, she's going into like a dream space. And this is based on the whole Freddy Krueger power set, right? So he's going to put her into a nightmare, right? Right out the gate. Again, no casting. This is instant. She's just going to see him. They're going to lock eyes. They're going to we're going to fight each other. And he's just going to be like, you're in your own nightmare scape. Now, from there, she's mainly fighting to get out of that nightmare scape. She can't do anything in the real world until she does that. We haven't seen a lot of evidence that can be done. It takes a very strong mental person to break out of that. And if we look at some examples of people that have controlled Wanda in the past, people like Dr. Doom. Dr. Doom altered her memories, exploited her emotionally, and used her as a magical battery. Chthon, who is a chaos god, directly possessed her and controlled her on several occasions, right? Kang has also manipulated her, right? So there's this big history of her mental defenses being quite low. So I can't see how she's going to break out of this nightmare scape that she's being put into. And while in the nightmare scape, she's not going to have her powers. She's not really going to have the ability to affect Vekna. So the fight is going to be quick. They're going to see each other on the street. He's going to put her into the scape. She's going to levitate up off the ground. He's going to walk over, wrap that big left claw around her head. And again, celery time, right? Snap, crackle, trap, pop. That's the end. We also talked about Wanda having to cast spells. Yeah, she's not doing Tai Chi, and she's not, flailing her arms around or doing some type of hypnotic dance. She's not screaming at the top of her lungs. This isn't Dungeons and Dragons style spell casting, right? But she does still need to form symbols, right? And use her hands and control her body. And one of the things
30 seconds remaining
on his side is when you are locked in that mental nightmare scape, you can't control your body. We saw it with just about everybody he's controlled. They just kind of go into this T-pose, levitate up in the air, and just start popping all of their internal organs and their bones and stuff like that. So this is something that Wanda's really going to have to overcome. And with the mental acuity that she has, the mental power that she has, I don't see that happening.
Ray, 3 minutes on the clock to show us whether or not Wanda can pop and lock out of the nightmare scape. Starting now.
Well, William's saying a lot of things that I just don't think are completely true. Scarlet Witch does not need to move her body in order to use magic in the comics. She often gestures when she wants to point things in a certain direction or focus her power at something, but she uses magic through pure willpower and her own mental things. Even in the MCU, which I know is a different version of the character, but I think carries some weight here, they say out loud that she does not need to use incantations. She just thinks about stuff and it just happens. And that's the MCU version, which is in fact the weaker version of the two characters, in my opinion. But also the magical innate mental defenses. She reversed Enchantress's magic, and in doing so, sent her to another dimension. That's the type of magical defenses I'm talking about here that William wants to casually ignore. She's been able to resist mental probes from people like Moondragon. She actually, in the House of M story, which we'll talk about more in a second, her mental state was questionable after some trauma that William was referring to. Well, Doctor Strange and Professor X both tried to team up to go into her brain telepathically, and she withstood both of them. And in that state against those two, I'm sorry, Vecna's not putting her in any kind of a mind prison and taking away her physical form. I'm much like the last New Kids on the album. I'm not buying it. Anyway, what we're going to do here is talk about how her big magic actually creates a physical strength to her, because she can use her elemental magic and her hex magic to buff her stats effectively. She was able to combine her powers to blow up Mount Wundagore in a blast. She blew up a mountain just by sort of thinking about it. But she's also performed exorcisms of demonic enemies, which means she has battled these demonic type creatures on a mental level before. She can also animate inanimate objects, causing chairs or whatever's existing in the upside down, the real world, wherever the heck we're fighting. Well, she can make other objects attack for her, even if she's restrained. Heck, using her earth powers, she pulled a meteor out of orbit and hit Kang the Conqueror with it. She hit a guy with a meteor. What's Vecna going to do when he gets hit by another planet? She also has very strong dispel magic, and that's going to be very important in a battle like this against a powerful magic user. Well, she was able to use it against Nyx, as well as the Mandarin. She was able to depower a magical object that he was carrying. Very strong magic user. I mentioned before the mental defenses. I wrote it down again because I knew he'd be attacking me this way. But she can manifest her magic into physical strength. She once KO'd Cable. She once KO'd Magneto. She's defeated Phoenix Force powered up characters Namor and Cyclops. And lest we forget, she once said in the House of M storyline, she just said no more mutants. And like 93% of the world's mutants got depowered immediately. Dead mutants lost their mutant powers in their DNA. That's the type of power that Vecna is, quite frankly, not going to be seen in Stranger Things. That's the type of power he's not ready for on any level.
All right, William, you have 60 seconds on the clock for your third and final counterpoint, starting now.
I think it's very important to note that when Wanda first starts a battle, she doesn't have much power. When we talk about like the House of M and other big feats that she's done, it's because she has been under a lot of stress and tormented to a point where she breaks, right? This fight doesn't last that long. This fight is over at the speed of thought. She isn't going to have time to cast. She isn't going to have time to think, right? Also, I would challenge this whole thing about, first of all, dispelling anything Vecna does doesn't matter. He's not a magician. He's a mentalist, right? He's got telepathy. He's got the ability to put people into the mindscape. He's got telekinesis. So magic versus magic, that's not at play here. It's magic versus mentalism. And the mentalism happens at the speed of thought. The magic you have to cast. You have to think about what you're casting, and you have to, especially they've overemphasized it in the MCU for sure, where she had to get right up next to somebody and then wave her fingers around to actually affect them. She doesn't have to do that.
All right, well done. And as always, Ray does have the final thought. So, sir, when you're ready.
I think it's very interesting that you talked about this being a battle of magic versus the mentalist, because I've seen that show on Netflix, and I don't think that guy would stand a chance against Scarlet Witch. He doesn't have any superpowers at all. He's just some kind of weird detective guy solving serial killer murders. I don't know what that point was even supposed to be. The point through all of this, though, is this is a heck of a battle. As you could tell from listening to William talk, Vecna is ridiculously powerful and growing in scope, much like any great comic book character. The longer he stays on Stranger Things, the more powerful he becomes. But, and this is the argument that I would say, Scarlet Witch is a cut above magically. She combines elemental magic with potent, almost like Jedi Force type magic with her physicals to the hex magic of the probability problems as well. And that's, I think, too big a cocktail for Vecna to drink. And you were saying before, Wanda only gets her super powerful feats when she's tormented by the world and brought down. Weren't you just talking about Vecna putting her in a mind prison and tormenting her with the worst things that she's ever seen in her entire life? Guess what? That's going to up her power level if it even happens the way you are describing. And if it happens the way you are describing, she will mentally break, say no more Vecna, and there will be no more Vecna. This episode will disappear from podcast history, and Dungeons and Dragons will have to be rewritten. That's the power level of Scarlet Witch that I'm talking about. And the fact that in your concept that you have posited, you have given all the ammunition for your own defeat. I think Scarlet Witch wins my way, but if you want to do it your way, I think she wins that way as well.
No out time or out buzzer? All right.
Oh, I don't out buzzer at the end. I just sort of
All
just
right.
trail off.
Cool. All right. So essentially, if I'm reading Ray right, Wizards of the Coast is in fact Scarlet Witch, and I will give this some thought. We'll be right back with my decision.
Okay, awesome. So this is the part where we just hang out for a few minutes and let Sam work on his decision. We have the amazing Sam's Decision song coming that I get excited. I get hyped for it every time. Now, you are muted right now, I do want to say. But yeah.
Sam has weighed all the points made. Two figures met in collision. Now let's find out who would win. It's time to hear Sam's decision.
All right, guys, this was a fantastic battle, and William came out with, in his own words, an amazing offense, showcasing Vecna's powerful telekinesis, durability, and almost instant regeneration. But the argument that Vecna will use Scarlet Witch's trauma does in fact open the door to a Scarlet Witch-style mental breakdown, which could be the power boost she needs to Thanos snap Vecna out of existence. For me, the possibility that Vecna immediately assesses Wanda as powerful enough of a threat that he yeets her into the Upside Down seems a little bit outside his MO. But if he did, would this be just a simple battlefield removal scenario, or would the time difference that freezes her in there be long enough to drive her to pop her bubble? Speaking of the bubble, if Wanda does simply snap Vecna like oh so many these children in Stranger Things, her placing him inside the bubble is just as big a battlefield removal, and we'll all get to see a great new show called Different Chokes. This was insanely close, and while Vecna dominates in being scary and trauma-inducing, Scarlet Witch dominates in win conditions, and I'm going with Wanda Maximoff.
It's a Christmas miracle, ladies and gentlemen. I knew my back was against the wall the second I saw who this judge was today. William Schmidt, one of the smartest minds of nerd culture that I've ever met in my entire life. And I knew that he would bring the facts with clinical precision. And after point number 2, I thought I was in big trouble.
Yeah, you were. That's fair to say.
Oh, good.
No, this, up until the last moment, really felt very strong. The other way, I might even say. William, how do you feel about this?
You know what? I honestly, if I was repping Wanda, I would use the same argument. I think that it could go either way. It's really up to the writer, right?
It really is.
If Vecna knew who she was, he would put her into the mindscape and not threaten her, and push her through a portal, and that would be the end of it. Right? Like, just get her away from me. Just go through that portal over there, and I'm going to close it, and you're going to be trapped in this mindscape where, hey, maybe I'll make it pleasant for you, and you can just sit there for a while and like. But he doesn't. He doesn't know that, right? So he's going to go for his usual bag of tricks, which is, I'm going to terrify you. I'm going to show you what you don't like, and I'm going to pop you like a little balloon.
Right?
Can he do that before she reacts? You know, again, up to the writer.
Yeah. Well, thank you for joining us. This has been awesome. Like, what a way to go out for this year. I couldn't have asked for a better show, a better lineup, a better guest. Do you want to tell people where they can find you? Do you have an online presence you want to put out
I like to
there?
hide.
All right. Then just, under a rock, look there.
Yeah. You can look at the only service I don't use anymore, actually, much like Ray. I kind of went away from that place that used to use birds. So yeah, I don't really have any social medias for contacts. I hide in a cave where the old nerds grow and Dungeons and Dragons.
Awesome. All right, Ray, any last words for the show?
Well, I feel first off that the holiday season is upon us, and I am filled with tremendous amounts of holiday cheer. That's why, as we mentioned last week on the wrap-up, I want to re-mention anybody who wants to join the Who Would Win Masters Patreon at patreon.com/Who Would Win Masters. If you join as a free member, costing you nothing, you just want to come be a part of our madness. One, you're going to have access to the poll for this episode. You will have a chance to vote despite this is my Christmas cheer. You will have a chance to vote and comment as if you were a paid member through the month of December. Nice. Additionally, this is going forward in perpetuity. All free and paid members on the Patreon of any tier get access to the Discord. And the Discord is where we're going to be. We used to use kind of a Facebook group and stuff, but that all went to crap. So we're going to be using our Discord in the same way we did that. So you can come on, be part of the forums, be part of the discussions. We're going to have special threads out there for expressing your feelings about the battles. And you can absolutely post things that we will read on the air. And join for free on the Patreon to get some of these perks forever. And I can't express what a gift to yourself you will be doing. William, obviously having you on has been a delight. It has been a joy. We've worked together before. We may work together in the future. You never know how life is going to carry you. No pressure. But the point I'm trying to make here is what a joy it is to be with you hanging out once again. You absolutely brought the heat with Vekna. I'm not lying when I say after point number 2, I was like, you better find some stuff because he is kicking your butt right now, and I don't like it. I don't like a butt-kicking Christmas unless I'm doing the kicking. And we'll see what the people have to say. People will get to vote on this battle, whether they are free or paid patrons, on our Patreon. I've said that. I'm going to keep saying it because you got to hear it 3 to 5 times before you choose to take action. I used to work in advertising. Anyway, come join us there. Come join us next week for the wrap-up. William might be back with us again. Yep. He might have better things to do. I don't know. Maybe. It's the holidays.
That's true.
Maybe I'll be the only one here. Maybe no one will be here. Maybe it'll be 1 hour of silence with a cat yelping in the background every so often. I don't know what we're doing here. Happy holidays to one and all, and we'll see ya for a rousing 2026. If we're all still here.
And if you think you've got what it takes to be a part of Who Would Win Masters, record a 1-minute video demo of yourself and send it to whowouldwinmasters@gmail.com. And who knows, maybe we'll see you in the challenger's chair next time. For Who Would Win Masters, this is Sam Proof. Stay strong.